Hey, put my earpiece in here. Welcome back to the Baco Motorsports Power Hour. We are in the Kern County Raceway Park segment. Got a text early this morning from the great Steve Hughes saying he had strep throat. It was about 7:05. I was sitting drinking coffee and reading the paper as I always do every morning. And so I texted him back, and knowing that I needed some help for this show,
Right.
I said, well, can Larry Collins come in? And so he said, I'll check. And we got Larry Collins in here,
Sure
which
enough.
is a step above Steve Hughes.
Oh, come on now. Come
Well,
on.
maybe not in greatness. But
All right.
in the role out there at KCRP.
All right, the hierarchy.
The hierarchy of KCRP, because
right.
we know Larry Collins isn't going to get on the mic and do the announcing
True
and
enough, yes.
all that marketing stuff that Steve does so well.
He does a great job for us.
Great job out there at Kern County Raceway Park, and we missed the astounding Steve Hughes and his
I'll do the
booming
best I can as
voice.
a fill-in. How's
So,
that?
I think you're doing an equitable job. So
Thank you.
We got there. You had your NASCAR season finale out at the track last
Right.
Saturday night. Ended
Right.
up a big season of racing, and for some of the divisions ended up, I guess, ended up a week earlier, the mini dwarfs and stuff. But basically, all the other divisions had their season finale
Yeah,
out
all
there.
the
You had
half-mile divisions.
all the half-mile divisions, and you had the
The
legends
and the mini stocks.
and the mini stocks out
Right.
there, and a double legends points, as I saw, making up for races lost during the season.
Exactly right, you're right.
So doing that. So,
Right.
and a twin feature for the late models, which I think we have a couple pictures here, Chris, we can show of. There's Ryan Vargas in the 23 car, young. Is he 14, 15 years old?
He's a young kid, but a great talent. Does a really good job, and he races both at Irwindale and here, and has wins this year. So yeah, Ryan's a good kid, and I think he's got a good future ahead of him.
And then we have
Trevor Huddleston.
Huddleston in the
Right.
50 car, who is a second generation driver.
Mm-hmm.
Lots and lots of wins. His dad used to race out at the old Mason Wren back in the day when Larry and Larry's father, Marion, was running a Mason Wren Raceway. So Huddlestons have been involved in racing for decades. So the first race of the first feature race were the 35 lappers.
Yes.
35
Yes.
lappers. Ryan Vargas gets to win. Trevor Huddleston second. Dylan Garner, Brandon Weaver, and Jagger Jones. And the second feature race is Trevor, Ryan, Flip, Brandon, Jaeger, and Dylan. Basically the same, just the
Same
order
players,
difference
but-
in the top five. Same players.
Yep.
But then news breaks yesterday, nationally, that Ryan Vargas has been DQ'd.
Right.
And this the reason we're talking about this so much is that it has NASCAR national championship implications here, because
Right.
Trevor has been battling for a national championship title. Finishing second probably left him out of the title. Finishing not winning both races, he needed to sweep both races. So exactly what did you check Saturday night after the races? And this is for those who don't understand. You do your pre-race inspections, which is pretty much your standard stuff, body,
Right. Track
wheelbase,
width,
track width, that type of stuff
way
that
the
you go
cars,
through
that sort
there.
of thing, right? And we try to be thorough. And then as you transition into post-race inspection,
There's always a post-race inspection where you pick a generally
top five typically.
top five, and at other tracks it's the top four. They all go to what's called the tech pad,
Right.
and there are you can check 100 things, but you don't have time, so
Right.
you pick. Some tracks pick one thing, some tracks pick 2, 3, 4, 5 things to look at.
Sure.
So you had 3 things you wanted to
Actually,
look at.
actually, 4 things. We for the late models, we pulled the carburetors and inspected those on the top 5. We pulled the shocks because there are criteria that the shocks have to meet. So we pulled those, inspected those. Then we had them pull the rear gear apart to make sure that was legal for all 5 cars. And the final thing we checked after all that was we checked the voltage in the system. And typically we all run a 12-volt system. In racing, if you can run something like a 16 or 18 volt system, sometimes it'll produce more power for the engine, and we don't allow that. Our rule specifically says 12 volt systems maximum, and Vargas's was excessive of that. And last rule of our rule book for late models is 4 pages. It's very simple. They claim they didn't know the rule, but it's left us in a position to make a make a call. And
But it was in the rule book.
absolutely in the rule book, yeah. And their contention was they weren't aware of it, but I
But
can't.
they had a 16-volt system on there.
Exactly.
And did you know it was 16 volts right away, or did you have to take it off and have it checked? Or
No,
did you,
it's pretty easy. You have a voltage meter. It's pretty easy once you've checked, and we've checked probably 20 cars this year, so you know what it should be. And then when you get one that's outside of the specifications, it's pretty easy to determine that. So yeah, it's the worst part of my job. I've been doing this for a long time, and when you disqualify somebody for an infraction, it's tough on you. It's tough on everybody, but you got to be able to look those other competitors in the eye and say, hey, we made this decision based upon what we found and what the rules are, and move forward.
and when was the last time you checked the voltage systems?
I'm not sure. I mean, we
But there's so many areas. What else? What are some of the other typical things that you would check?
you'll check, cubic inch and compression on the motors. You can. Like you said, there's so many things. We've pulled the drive lines and weighed them to make sure they're made out of the proper materials. There's a lot of the axles. It's endless. There's a lot of parts that make up a race car.
A lot
right?
of parts, and
Yeah.
so and some things you don't want to do too deep of a tear down,
Right. Yeah.
and keep them there forever.
Yes.
But you ever check clutches, things like that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little bit.
Yeah,
It takes a little more.
Yeah, especially in Bakersfield, it's hot. It's still hot at the end of the night. We've been in the heat all day, but it's part. It's part of the process.
And the teams do not know what's going to be checked until they put on the check pad and say, "This is what we're checking tonight."
Exactly right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he was disqualified, which moved Trevor Huddleston up to getting the win. And I don't know if the points have been calculated, but NASCAR is looking at all of this because there's been a lot of talk about, let us say, and NASCAR has a point system where they try to do a national championship. And it used to be back in the day at Mesa Marin, you could run 20 races or something, and you take your best finishes from 20 races. But apparently now, the rules have changed over the years. You can run however many races you want.
Right.
And then it's your best finishes, your top
18.
18 finishes from, if you run 36 races.
Right.
You take your top 18 finishes, and then it depends on car counts are factored in there, how many cars are into this.
And that's the biggest change to the system over the years. It used to be, it didn't matter if you raced against 5 cars or 30 cars, you still got a maximum 50 points for that race.
Right.
And then they started, looking at it, well, shoot, if this guy's only beaten 5 cars, that's not fair to the guy that's racing against 30
And so
cars.
you get fewer cars, and that's kind of like, I know IMCA has a rule where if you don't have at least 10 cars for a modified race, you generally get 40 points to win, but as a scale, you don't get as many points.
Right.
And that's for regional and national competition, right? Figuring if there's less than double-digit cars, that it's not as good. So NASCAR's gone to that. And now we talk about the claim of everybody makes in that there are field fillers, cars that just show up, maybe they're late models, maybe they're super streets or something disguised as a late model. They start the late model race, run a few laps, park, or they run the whole race, but they're 5 laps down at the end of the race. So you've got, let's just use a figure, 18 cars instead of 12 cars.
Right.
Okay, just for a figure. And there's been talk that back east, some of the past champions almost drove there with half a dozen cars.
Yeah, or the
The track had half a dozen, and those cars are there. And none of these cars are ever going to win anyway. On the best day, let's face it. We all know. Look at Cup. Look at Xfinity. Look at it. There's a certain number of good cars, a certain number of cars that may be able to win, maybe on a great night, and then there's a bunch of what we call guys who are going to finish from 6th on back.
Right.
That they're not going to win a race, or 7th or 10th on back, depending on the field. But NASCAR takes that all to the equation. So there's been, I guess, claims of field fillers back east, improper cars, or park and starts, which happens on. It used to happen a lot on the Cup Series,
right?
Because they go out there, they wouldn't even have spare tires or a crew.
Yeah.
They'd run them first, take a gas, park, and take the starting money and go home.
Right.
And there's been kind of that claim on both coasts, I guess.
Sure.
And probably down at Irwindale, talk about field fillers too.
Right.
To help the car count, which is important in getting full points for the national championship.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And it's a tough job for NASCAR. I mean, they used to just kind of not worry about it, but then they saw that obviously it was affecting the national championship standings, and they're trying to determine a national champion from 56 racetracks across America and the points they gain at their specific racetracks. And, so back east, there are a few more tracks. Guys can run Friday, Saturday, Sundays in a lot of cases and get more opportunities to score those points. But still, if there's not 18 cars at those events, they don't score maximum points. So you could say, so the game begins. And, but it puts NASCAR in a position of, was that a legitimate competitor that showed up to compete, or was that someone there just to help, have an impact on the points that were awarded for that race? And it's tough because we had some guys that worked hard to get to the race. Maybe they had an issue with their car and they ran a few laps in the main event and that was it.
And I'm sure that goes on back east. So
Right.
basically at this point in time, NASCAR is looking at everything again.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at over fields, finishes, and stuff, and they're working on whether Huddleston or the other guy is the national champion.
And they're probably not happy with what happened at Kern County Raceway on Saturday, but it is what it is. I mean, we checked cars, we found a violation, we made the decision based upon the violation we found, and now NASCAR's working overtime to figure out the national point standings.
Stay tuned. This will figure itself out.
Right.
When we had other stuff out there in the season, Trevor Huddleston, by the way, is the track champion. So there you have it. We know that much out of Kern County Raceway Park. That car right there, Roger Holder, is the track champion of the Super Stocks. That man drives drag cars, very powerful, pro mod type, super turbocharged drag cars, dirt cars, very good in IMCA modifieds, and very good in super street pavement racing. And for just his first full season.
Unbelievable job for Roger. I've seen him drive that car in the third and fourth groove at Kern, up in the gray, sideways, and you're thinking, how's he saving this car? But yeah, he'll do it the next lap and the next lap, and he should really be commended to come in to this form of motorsport and excel like he did in that first full year. It was really fun to watch Roger because he can wheel a race car.
And there you have it. And we had the spec mods out there as well. Jason Galvin, 32. He stepped into a different car.
Two wins in a row.
And I think a car does make a little difference because now he's got 2 wins in a row.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to get like a helmet that's 16 times. He's going to be wearing one of those giant space-type helmets on his head pretty soon. Love Jason. Mike Mason finished second. Jim Coffey is your track champion again.
Well deserved.
And Tanner Wattenbarger finished fourth in that race. So good deal there. And then you had twin features for the legends to make up for a race that didn't get done earlier this season. And as usual, Louis Tyrrell won both features, and he is the track champion. He is just dominant this year at Kern County Raceway Park.
Yeah, he probably competes in 30 events a year in the Legends cars and been doing it for years. And the kid can wheel a car, and Colton Page gave him a run for his money, but Louis he gets it done every race.
And then real quickly, because we're running out of time here, we had the mini stocks and the number 8 car there out at the head of the field. And, of course, we have it was Brock Mello won, Brady Mello second in the 88 car.
Yeah, right.
And who was the track champion?
Well, Brock was, and
Brock
he actually tied with Damian Liniger, but Brock had more wins on the year.
And Damian Liniger was close to like a 1-point finish last year to win or a tie, and he'd won it. But so really close finish again in mini stocks, which seems to be the modus operandi out there.
Exactly right.
And then we have upcoming events. We don't have any racing until later on in October.
Right.
But we have the Night of Destruction real quickly.
Oh,
what is the Night of Destruction?
All the fun stuff that we've done during the year. RV races. We're going to drop a trailer from 100 feet. We're going to have water the boat races. We'll probably have a lot of other stuff, but it's kind of like we're kind of keeping some of that under wraps. But just a lot of fun stuff that we do out there, and I think people are going to enjoy it. So we're looking forward to that.
A lot of mayhem at the track. A good night to just go out there and get away from your real world and have a little fun.
Oh, you'll see a lot of stuff get tore up that night.
Well, we all like to see. Big boys like to see stuff get tore up, and the girls too.
You bet.
Okay, well, thanks for coming in, Larry.
You bet, Mike.
And I wish Mr. Hughes a quick recovery.
I'm sure he's fine already.
And we'll see somebody back from Kern County Raceway Park next week on the Power Hour. We'll be back in a minute with another segment.